So here's the latest with this feud between Trump, the DOJ, FBI. And Trump went to his social media site today, Truth Social, to slam the DOJ and the FBI. Because they released this photo, a photo taken during this raid at Mar-a-Lago, of these highly sensitive classified documents spread out all over the floor, all over the carpet. And the DOJ is now accusing Trump of engaging in obstruction. But I'm going to turn the tables on the DOJ and the FBI. I'm going to accuse the FBI and the DOJ of engaging in obstruction. And we have evidence, folks. We have evidence. Remember Russian collusion? Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, these texts that they sent back and forth, showing their bias against Trump. And they were stooping each other at the time. And you had other people at the FBI and the DOJ that made it well known they didn't like Trump. Then Trump's lawyers, during this raid, were not allowed inside Mar-a-Lago. And the FBI was there for what? 6, 7, 8 hours? So what happened during the 6, 7, 8 hour period, FBI, where Trump's lawyers, which he has every constitutional right to legal counsel, what happened during that 6, 7, 8 hour period when Trump's lawyers were not allowed inside Mar-a-Lago? And why did you release this photo of these highly classified sensitive documents? And anybody with a laptop or a high-definition camera can zoom in on this photo. I have it here at this article at NPR. And I've got 4 articles to share with you. So we'll go to NPR, Fox News, the AP, CNN. And I'll give you the legal definition of obstruction. Because the DOJ and the FBI, you're going to have to prove that Trump was engaged in some type of crime. And part of that is intent, as you'll see in just a moment. So we know of the bias, previous bias, during the Russian probe, these texts between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. The views of people who worked at the FBI and the DOJ during Russian collusion. We know that Trump's lawyers were not allowed at Mar-a-Lago during this raid. There's also a photo of an FBI agent during the raid talking with the general public, some Joe Schmo on the street. And you have this photo here. And when you took these documents, you may have had the authority, FBI, to take these boxes of classified documents. But did you also have the authority to examine these documents during the raid? Because if you did not have the authority to examine these documents during the raid, then you inadvertently engaged in some form of obstruction. So I'm calling you out. You know, you work for us. I said this before. You work for the American people. Our taxes pay your salary. You need to do what's in the best interest of the American people. And I don't know what's going on at the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ. I don't care. But the point is, you work for us, and I am demanding an answer of what happened with this raid at Mar-a-Lago. In fact, I want every single FBI agent who was involved in that raid at Mar-a-Lago, I want them fired. I am demanding that every single one of those agents be fired. Come to my channel here. Tell me why you felt the need. I asked this before, ask it again. Why you felt the need to raid Mar-a-Lago. And why were 20 pages of a 38-page affidavit blacked out? Completely blacked out. And by your own admission in that affidavit, which I read on a video here, you said that you had probable cause to believe that you would find these documents at Mar-a-Lago. Not that you had evidence showing that these documents existed or were stored at Mar-a-Lago, but you had probable cause to believe that you would find these documents at Mar-a-Lago. Doesn't that show some type of bias, premeditation? When you're supposed to be neutral in your investigation and go by the book? So let's get to this article at NPR. This is by Kerry Johnson. In filings, Justice Department rebukes Trump's claims on Mar-a-Lago search. And this came out today, the 31st. It says here, when the U.S. Attorney General appeared before television cameras this month to discuss the FBI raid at Mar-a-Lago, Merrick Garland said his Justice Department, quote, will speak through its court filings and its work. The careful former judge, whose voice sometimes fails to rise above the den in D.C., speaking loudly this time in legal briefs spurred by former President Donald Trump's demands. In a late-night filing this week, prosecutors blasted what they called, quote, wide-ranging meritless accusations leveled against the government. And then in 36 pages, they proceeded to set the record straight on the unprecedented search of the home of a former president. Now, if you need 36 pages to claim that these accusations are meritless, that they have no weight to them, then obviously you're guilty of something. You're hiding something. 36 pages, you just couldn't say it in one? It's probably because Trump has got you guys by the balls. That's probably why. Because you guys at the FBI, the CIA, whoever was involved with this raid, you got caught with your pants down. It says here, countering Trump's claims, Trump and his political allies have been claiming he declassified government secrets uncovered in an office, storage room, and desk at the Mar-a-Lago resort. The government lawyers said at no time in the months-long tug-of-war to retrieve the papers that Trump's lawyers made the argument he declassified the documents. But wasn't Trump president for 4 years? Didn't he have executive privilege so he could have classified or declassified whatever documents he wanted? And that also gave him permission to take whatever documents he felt necessary with him to Mar-a-Lago that pertained to his presidency. Rather, at a handoff in June 2021, an unnamed Trump lawyer gave the visitors from the Justice Department a batch of papers in a, quote, single red-weld envelope double-wrapped in tape, suggesting the attorney believed they were classified, the Justice Department filing said. Were they classified or were they not classified? Just because something is wrapped, double-wrapped in tape, doesn't necessarily mean that it's a classified document. Another Trump ally, described in the court papers as the custodian of the records, signed a letter to authorities certifying that Trump had conducted a, quote, diligent search for other materials sought by the National Archives and prosecutors. The letter said, quote, all responsive documents were included and that Trump had kept no copy, notation, or reproduction. So this is at NPR, and I'm going to try to keep these articles short because they are quite lengthy. But go check out this article at NPR and look at this photo that the FBI took on the day of the raid at Mar-a-Lago of these highly classified, sensitive documents. But that leads us to the question of what exactly is obstruction of justice? And this is at Legal Information Institute, really good website. According to 18 U.S.C., I believe it's section 1503, defines obstruction of justice as an act that corruptly or by threat or force or by any threatening letter or communication influences, obstructs, or impedes, or endeavors to influence, obstruct, or impede the due administration of justice. So you would have to be engaged in some type of activity that is impeding that investigation, i.e. blackmail, pressuring somebody to lie under oath, hiding documents, or not allowing FBI agents to search your property or the local authorities to search your property in an investigation. And someone who obstructs justice when that person has a specific intent to obstruct or interfere with a judicial proceeding falls under the category of obstruction of justice. Now, for a person to be convicted of obstructing justice, that person must not only have the specific intent to obstruct the proceeding, but that person must know, one, that a proceeding was actually pending at the time, and two, there must be a connection between the endeavor to obstruct justice and the proceeding, and the person must have knowledge of this connection. So you have to prove that Trump had the intent to hoard these classified documents, that he engaged in some type of activity that impeded this investigation. So that's at Legal Information Institute. That's the definition, legal definition, according to 18 U.S.C. Section 1503. And wait till you hear Trump's response to this. So this is an article at Fox News. This came out today. And this is by Brianna Hurley, I believe it is, last name Herlihy. Trump slams DOJ's filing opposing special master allegation he tried to obstruct probe. I declassified. So the whole argument here is whether or not Trump is allowed to have this special master, somebody to oversee the review of these documents or look at these documents, determining whether or not they're classified and not classified. Former President Donald Trump slammed the Department of Justice following the agency's opposition to his request for a special master review document seized from his Mar-a-Lago estate, claiming he had already declassified the materials. And in the 40-page response filed Tuesday, Justice Department opposed the appointment of a special master to review documents seized from Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate, saying, quote, he lacked standing because the records in question belong to the United States, not him. Well, actually, those documents belong to us, the American citizen, who pay your salary in the government to do what's in the best interest of the American people. You're supposed to represent us. DOJ, FBI, CIA, IRS, members of Congress, calling all you people out. In addition, the DOJ's filings said documents were likely concealed and removed from the storage room and that efforts were likely taken to obstruct the government's investigation. The key word here is likely. They were likely concealed and removed. Not that you have evidence showing that they were concealed and removed, but were likely concealed and removed. Language is important, folks. In a flurry of Truth Social posts Wednesday morning, Trump said it was, quote, terrible that the FBI during the raid of Mar-a-Lago threw documents haphazardly all over the floor, and this is in parentheses, perhaps pretending it was me that did it, and then started taking pictures of them for the public to see. Thought they wanted them to be kept secret. Thank you, Mr. Trump. Exactly. Luckily, I declassified. So was the FBI engaging in some form of obstruction by taking this photo of these highly classified sensitive documents and then later releasing that document to the public? Having this previous bias in the Russian probe, as I asked? These texts between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page? This FBI agent talking with the general public during the raid? Trump's lawyers not being allowed inside Mar-a-Lago during the raid? And there was one FBI agent who's quoted as saying, I'm the FBI, I'll do whatever I want, I'll search whatever I want here at Mar-a-Lago, take whatever I want. When you're only supposed to be looking for the documents that relate to the investigation? So that's at Fox News. But if you go back to August 13th, this is an article at CNN Politics. Trump lawyer claimed no classified material was at Mar-a-Lago in signed letter to Justice Department. Story by Evan Perez, Caitlin Collins, and Sarah Murray. It says here, when a former President Donald Trump's attorney signed a letter in June asserting that there was no more classified information stored at Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence, according to two sources familiar with the matter. The letter signed by the attorney raises fresh questions about the number of people who may have legal exposure in the ongoing investigation into the handling of classified materials from Trump's time in the White House. The probe reached dramatic heights earlier this week when the FBI executed a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago, with agents removing 11 sets of classified documents. Again, I'd like to know, do you just have the authority to remove those documents? Or did you also have the authority to examine those documents? And if you didn't have the authority to examine those documents, and you examined those documents when you removed those documents, you engaged in some form of obstruction of justice. FBI. DOJ, you better start investigating what happened during that raid. And I'd like to know, come to my channel. I've asked this before. Please, by all means, come to my channel. Let me know in the comments section below what went down during this raid at Mar-a-Lago. The American public, the Americans said, we have a right to know. We have a right to know. So they're removing 11 sets of classified documents, some of which were marked as top secret, SCI, one of the highest levels of classification. That inventory list contradicts the attorney's letter. The removal of that classified information after the letter was sent could explain why prosecutors cited an obstruction law in their search warrant request. The sources did not identify when the letter was signed or by whom. It was part of an ongoing correspondence with the Department of Justice over the issue. The New York Times first reported the existence of the letter. And CNN previously reported that following a June meeting at Mar-a-Lago, where justice officials left with classified information, investigators developed evidence, including from a witness, that led investigators to believe there was still more classified information and documents stored at the complex. So you believe there are more documents there, but you don't have the evidence to really prove it. Sounds like this is all a ruse to get Trump. Finally, we go to the AP. Obstruction now a major focus in Trump documents probe. This is by Eric Tucker. This also came out today. The FBI investigation into top secret government information discovered at Mar-a-Lago is zeroing in on the question of whether former President Donald Trump's team criminally obstructed the probe. A new document alleges that government records had been concealed and removed and that law enforcement officials were misled about what was still there. Prove it. Prove that you were misled about what documents were at Mar-a-Lago. Bet you they can't do it. The allegation does not necessarily mean that Trump or anyone else will ultimately face charges. So what was the point of this raid? What's the point of this investigation? Would it could pose the most direct legal threat to Trump and those in his orbit, in part because the Justice Department has historically regarded obstruction as an aggravating factor that tilts in favor of bringing criminal charges involving the mishandling of classified information. And again, you have to prove that Trump had the intent to mislead in this investigation. The intent to impede the investigation. You have to prove intent. You have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he was engaged in some type of criminal activity. Quote, it goes to the heart of trying to suborn the very integrity of our criminal justice system, said David Loffman, who once oversaw the same Justice Department counterintelligence section now responsible for the Mar-a-Lago investigation. The latest Justice Department motion in the case is focused less on the removal last year of classified information from the White House to Mar-a-Lago and more on the events of this past spring and summer. That's when law enforcement officials tried unsuccessfully to get all the documents back and were assured falsely that everything had been accounted for after a diligent search. Wait a minute. You cannot say that they were falsely assured of this without the evidence to back it up. Show me the evidence that you were falsely assured that you would have all these documents. Again, they can't do it because they have nothing. There's nothing there. It's just like Russian collusion. There's nothing there. I mean, we still haven't found the hotel room bed where these golden showers took place. The Justice Department issued a subpoena in May for the records, and officials visited Mar-a-Lago on June 3rd to collect them. When they got there, Tuesday's department document says They were handed by a Trump lawyer with, quote, a single red-walled envelope double-wrapped in tape containing documents. The custodian for the records presented a sworn certification to the official saying that, quote, any and all responsive documents to the subpoena had been located. The Trump lawyer said that all records that had come from the White House had been held in one location, a storage room, and there were none in any private space or other spot at the house. But the FBI came to doubt the truth of those statements and obtained a search warrant to return on August 8th. As I said, these are some lengthy articles, so go check these out at NPR, the AP, Fox News, CNN. But this raid should have never taken place. And again, you have to have solid evidence showing that Trump engaged in some type of criminal activity, that he had the intent to impede or obstruct this investigation. And it doesn't help your cause that you're releasing photos of classified documents to the public during this raid, or that you didn't allow Trump's lawyers to be present, which he has every constitutional right to legal counsel, not allowing his lawyers to be present during this raid. Sounds to me like you're hiding something, FBI. Sounds to me like you're hiding something, DOJ. Or do you hate Trump that much that you'll do whatever it takes to make sure that he doesn't run in 2024? Is that what this is really all about? And I didn't vote for Trump. But as I said before, I'll say it again. I don't like this. These raids. This is what happens in a communist country. Let's make sure it doesn't happen here. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you know what to do. You can also follow me on Instagram, #JasonComposes, or find me at Twitter, Culture Confederacy at Twitter. This is the Culture Confederacy saying peace out, stay safe, everybody. God bless this great country, and I'll catch you next time.